Okay. Justice Carpio, from your understanding, should we bring Harry back to Hague? No, I'm just kidding. So from your understanding, does he have any chance of applying for asylum? Because there are a couple of problems that were raised by some of the experts at The Hague. One is yung point of entry mo is important. If you have options to be in other European countries, bakit ka sa Netherlands, right? I was also told na baka yung case ni Joma Season and the complications it created between Netherlands and Philippines perhaps may militate against their openness. But ultimately, of course, I think this also goes down to the fact that, the last thing Netherlands wants is to give a kind of an asylum to, let's just say, questionable characters. So in short, Justice Carpio, wala na daw manhunt, no man's land na daw ang situation ni Harry Roque because no one wants to take on him or take him into their team. What is your read of his situation?
Well, there is no warrant of arrest against him. It's just a subpoena by the Congress, and the subpoena will become ineffective. It will expire when Congress expires this June 30. So by the time this will be decided, there will be no more subpoena to him from the Philippine authorities, from Congress. So then he can come back. So there is no impediment for him. He will not be arrested because there's no outstanding arrest order or subpoena against him. So that will be his problem because that subpoena is good only for this Congress, for the 19th Congress. Yun ang problema niya.
Just as a part of me is suspicious you want an entrapment to happen here kasi as we know, the NBI, PNP are looking at potential serious charges, right? Human trafficking related allegations among others sa Pogos. So what you're saying is wag muna sila mag-file. Let him come back
Well,
first.
it will take time because there's the preliminary investigation, I think, has not started yet. And maybe they will just not file yet. No?
You think that will make it easier for alam ko mahabang panahon 'yan, 'di ba? Speaking of High Roque, I mean, don't you think Justice, I know this is crazy, this is wild. This is wild, but my suggestion was why not let's come up with a deal since ayaw na siya ng mga Duterte. Since ayaw na siya ng sarili niyang mga lawyers na nire-recommend niya. Like no man's land nga, 'di ba? Um Why not come back home and be a state witness? Parang kumbaga, keep the goods, spill the beans. Like, we know he must be a well-resourced guy to give such huge amounts to Sarah. And he can have all the luxuries of a tropical life back in the Philippines. But in exchange, can he become a state witness? Or is he even credible at all anymore? Is he useful for anything anymore?
Well, one of the requirements to be a state witness is that you are not, you're at the least guilty. Well, in terms of guilt, is way down because he was just a spokesperson. No? So, nasa aiding and abetting lang siya. He did not take direct participation. So, well, on that issue, that no, he will qualify because he's not the most guilty. He's probably the least guilty. But I don't know what's the value if he has anything to say. Because si Digong mismo, from coming from his own mouth, he admitted everything already. So what is the value of of a of a his spokesperson now if the spokesperson turns state witness?
Yun nga, I think yun nga yung problema, hindi na namin alam saan siya pupulutin kasi baka useless siya sa government, useless siya sa Duterte side. You think the decision to sideline him was precisely because of the issues you raised earlier, which is
Mhm.
baka gagamitin pa yung sarili niya mga sinasabi laban sa
Yeah,
kanya.
I think the head lawyer, the lead lawyer,
Si Kaufman.
realized that uh, they might use those videos of him saying that Duterte is a serial killer. So that's really terrible.
Masakit daw yun kasi siya daw yung nag-recommend dun sa lead counsel ngayon eh. So parang feeling niya, 'di ba? Yung parang na itsepwera siya ng sarili niyang recommendation. But isang chismis sa akin, Justice, again, these are from unimpeachable sources who already confirmed to us last year na there were communications going on. Sabi ng iba, mukhang hindi daw malabo na i-give up din nung current lead counsel itong case na ito once it becomes clear na mukhang walang mapupuntahan. I don't want to talk about track record, but some people would even go so far as to say, kung tinignan mo yung track record ng tao na yan, um, medyo not the most reassuring if you're in the Duterte camp. So, basically, sabi ng iba, who knows, within a year or right after September, if not earlier, baka kailangan na nilang maghanap ng bagong abogado. Have you heard something along those lines? Because that's what I'm hearing in Hague na
Well,
they're also not confident this guy will stick it through all the way for the next 2, 3 years, if not 8 years.
he withdrew from one of his clients, and his client was surprised because the client was not informed. No, although he got approval from the court to withdraw. So the client was saying, "My lawyer hasn't communicated to me." Yung pala, he withdrew already. So
Yun, di ba? May
uh,
track record siyang gano'n na he'll drop you in the middle of the...
yeah, he dropped the client because he said the client well couldn't pay him anymore, was in arrears. So, but I don't think that will be the case of Duterte. He has a lot of friends to pay for
To
the
cover
attorney's
the...
fees. Mm.
Is there an option for ICC to freeze his accounts or something? Because ICC has done that, right? In the past, they freeze the account of some of these alleged international criminals.
Yeah, yes, that's one of the requests probably of ICC because there are thousands of victims, and they will have to be compensated for their suffering and for their damages, no, for their injuries.
So, but will there be enough fund for him to keep an expensive foreign AFAM counsel?
Well, we will know when the impeachment court convenes and they order the bank accounts to be opened, the BPI bank accounts.
How important is that bank account issue, Justice? Because Senator Trillanes would basically argue na that's the key to the entire puzzle, right? Pag binuksan mo yan, magkakaalaman na talaga the whole empire of deception, if not worse.
Well, in case, well, that will unmask his claim that he has no money, that he's just depending on his retirement pay. And he will have to explain the sources of those funds, no? And Trillian is saying that those were contributed by drug lords, no? So we will see. I mean, we'll have, because that can be easily traced, those funds, because checks were deposited. So there were people who drew those checks, and those people can be subpoenaed by the impeachment court.
And again, of course, nagkasabay kayo ni Justice Corona, no? Back in the day. Well, in his case, that was quite consequential, no? Once they went about his foreign currency account. To what degree is the shadow of that Corona case um, parang a template for what to do and what not to do? I mean, I think I never asked you about this question because this was about your institution back then. Can you tell me about your perspective? I know this is quite a sensitive question, Justice, but this is what's being raised constantly as a precedence or some sort of a template. Although, of course, we're talking about quite a different case here, but nevertheless.
Well, Corona deposited money in his dollar account, and his defense was that it's not subject to subpoena because it's a foreign currency account under the foreign currency law. Uh, but he admitted it when he appeared at the Senate that he had that account. So it became academic because there was an admission.
And do you think what are the prospects na kasi because these bank accounts could be not only Digong, right? It could be the family, it could be the vice president, right? Parang may joint account pa sila and all of that. So that's not just about Digong anymore, right? That could be about the entire family. The entire dynasty could be affected, right?
Well, in the impeachment court, it's only the account of Sarah, her personal account, as well as her accounts with other parties, joint accounts, because if you are a joint accountee, then you are part owner of that account, and that can be inquired into. So only the joint accounts, her own personal and the joint accounts, will be subject to disclosure by the can be demanded. The records can be demanded by the impeachment court from the bank.
Um, and Justice, going back to this again, what is your understanding na hanggang September ginawa? Is this going to be a sui generis case? I mean, what is the level of debate among legal experts and luminaries? Um, is the timeline here something that is much more in line with historical precedents, or you expect this to be faster? Because I'm hearing very different interpretation of bakit September pang binigay. I mean, maybe the common uh, theme is mabigat yung kaso niya, and mukhang hindi pa nagkaroon ng full realization that they have to engage the ICC. But a lot of people would say that that also could mean that this could take so long that maybe Digong will spend the rest of his life in trial, not even uh, before a final decision comes in. And then there are some people who are saying that you never know, that there's always a possibility that Duterte might get ano, temporary parang interim parang freedom or something like that. He might argue for that. And who knows? Maybe the jurisdiction argument doesn't work, but he might just have enough to argue that he will need some sort of temporary reprieve or liberty. I mean, what are the scenarios you're looking at, Justice? And from your understanding of the ongoing debate among experts and your fellow legal luminaries, what are the most likely scenarios to look at in the
Well, in
coming?
terms of timeline, the setting of the confirmatory hearing this September, that's more or less usual, no? Uh, but in terms of the total trial time, which is about 8 years, now the normal takes about 8 years for the others. I think it will be shorter in the case of Duterte because there are just too many evidence already. The prosecution is ready, and the he has a lot of admissions, so it will be easier for the prosecution to present its evidence because of the admissions. And so I would say maybe it will be shorter by 2 years compared to the normal. And with respect to the,
So 5, 6 years you're looking at it? Happy
yes, maybe
term.
about 5 to 6 years. Uh, and then with respect to the, you were talking about earlier the,
Yeah,
uh,
yung for yung ano yun, interim release or
yeah,
temporary,
interim
yung mga
release.
ganyan. Yeah, yeah, interim release.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the interim release. I think he will have that will be denied because for all intents and purposes, he's a flight risk because he was involuntarily brought to the Hague, and the only interim release that I could find was a military leader who voluntarily appeared at the Hague. So he was not a flight risk because he voluntarily surrendered. All those who were brought there involuntarily were not granted any interim release. And the other thing there is because he still has influence here, you can see the people supporting him. So he could still threaten the witnesses or some other people. No, so the court will be cognizant of that. That he has a lot of interest, a lot of supporters here, even in the Hague. No, so they would, I think, be careful in granting any interim release.
Yeah, I mean, and my understanding is tatanungin din yung ibang potential witnesses and tsaka victims, no, if they will
Yeah,
feel
the
safe.
victims, yes, the
Yeah,
victims
if
will.
you will feel safe if this guy is released. Kasi next thing na, baka yayarin kayo sa Pilipinas or kung saan, di ba? I actually met yung kapatid na isa sa mga biktima, one of the more prominent biktima na kinover ng international media kagabi. So it was quite an intense conversation. And you could see na hanggang ngayon, yung mga pamilya ng mga witnesses ay natatakot or they're still worried. They don't feel safe completely about coming out and sharing their stories. Kasi nga, hindi lang sila na dehumanize online and offline, hindi lang sila ina-attack. but you never know about the situation. So medyo nakakatakot pa rin. I could see the chilling effect is still there, considering the vice president is also a Duterte, right? So technically speaking, it's always possible another Duterte will be back in power. Justice, let me pivot back to the Philippines. What is your read of the whole Amy Marcos hearing? I don't know what to call it. I mean, with attorney Jingoy, with international law expert Cayetano. I mean, who was that lawyer na kinuha nila? Like, sino tong mga pro Duterte? I mean, sino tong mga to? Just, I cannot even Google their names. Saan sila pumupulot ng mga legal minds
Mhm.
to argue their case? Did you see the meme? Yung sinend ko sa'yo. It's like a 50,000 likes and all. Yung parang may jurisdiction ng ICC, you are Raul Pangalangan, ganun. Tapos sa baba, walang jurisdiction ng ICC, Robin Hood Padilla, yung mga ganun. So, medyo nadadagdagan, ha? May mga nilalagay din sila mga attorney doon sa baba. Who are these people, Justice?
Well, the main issue there is uh, okay, there is that law 98 Republic Act 9851 which authorizes the government at the discretion of the government to surrender the accused if there is already a case filed in an international tribunal. So the issue really is that law sufficient, or do you have to get a warrant of arrest from a local judge? I mean, because Republic Act 9851 is silent. It doesn't say that you have to when you are surrendering to an international tribunal. But when uh, you extradite an accused to another country, there is a requirement. You have to follow the extradition law of the Philippines, which means you have to file a petition with the RTC, with the local RTC. So, as I said, it could go either way. And that is the very core of the issue there in that Senate hearing. So I think that will be decided by the court anyway, whether a warrant of arrest is required in addition to Republic Act 9851. So that's basically the whole issue there.
So basically you're saying medyo may silence pa ang existing laws natin. So
And there is no precedent. There is no prior decided case. So, as I said, it could go either way, but it will not help Duterte because the rule in ICC is they don't inquire into how you were brought to the ICC. If you're before the ICC, they will prosecute you. As long as the ICC was not responsible, did not participate in any irregularity in arresting you uh, in a foreign country, no, in another state, and of course they had nothing to do with the arrest here. So with the surrender here, it was a voluntary act of the Philippine government. So that issue before the Senate committee now, it will not really affect uh, the trial in the Hague.
but it will have an implication for the next. Last
Yes,
time I heard that
correct.
up to 9, if not 11 other people could also be within the crosshairs. I mean, hindi lang si Pebbles. Ay, sorry, hindi lang si Bato de la Rosa. A couple of other people. Tingin ko minsan, Justice Bato de la Rosa ginamit ng pang-distract. Like, while everyone is looking at Bato, iba yung mga dinadampot. I mean,
Yeah,
they
you are, yeah, you're absolutely right. It will have an effect on the subsequent people who will be arrested or surrendered. So that is still a live issue as far as the other uh, people to be arrested. No, and I think their names are there already in the warrant of arrest, but they were just redacted. The names were redacted, so we know that there are others who will be arrested.
Pero pang redacted, di ba, you can see the length of the, like, redaction. Like, wait lang, parang kasya ba si ganito, ganyan. I mean, you could make some good bet, di ba, sino itong mga redacted names. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, Justice. Tapos na. Basically, I was told by folks in the Hague, game over na for Digong. Do you buy that? Basically, game over na daw. Malaban na daw makauwi to or something. Yun na yung retirement na, basically. Do you think it's too optimistic for people to say that? Or rather, too
Yeah, well,
take a listic, yeah.
well, I agree with the VP Sara that it's very unlikely, highly improbable that former President Duterte could return here. Because even if he's acquitted, that will be 6 years from now
And
at
he's
the
80 tomorrow.
earliest.
And he's 80 tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah,
And he,
and he will be 86. And with the kind of evidence and all of those admissions that he made, I think he will get convicted. No?
and you're looking at what, 25 to 30 years? If ever
30
he would,
years.
30